Jerusalem erupted into chaos on Monday night as hundreds of ultra-Orthodox Jews poured into the streets, clashing violently with Israeli police in the city and in nearby Beit Shemesh. Footage circulating on social media showed Israeli police brutally beating Haredi Jew protesters on the streets. The protests were sparked by authorities' decision to perform autopsies on the bodies of two babies who died in what investigators describe as a horrifying case of negligence inside an overcrowded, unlicensed daycare center. The victims were 4-month-old Leah Golovinsits and 6-month-old Aharon Katz. Their bodies were discovered Monday morning inside the illegal Haredi daycare on Hamem Gim Street in Jerusalem's Romema neighborhood, reported the Times of Israel. Alongside them were 53 other babies and toddlers, many suffering from varying degrees of respiratory distress and injuries.
Friends, today at approximately 12:30 in the afternoon, the police dispatch received calls regarding about the tragic incident that took place here on Hamak Street in the Romema neighborhood in Jerusalem.
Why?
From the initial reports that we received, it was conveyed that there were injured individuals who had been evacuated in a critical state requiring resuscitation to various hospitals. Forces from the heart of the Capital Police Station arrived at the scene. They cordoned off the area, and together with additional emergency services, including fire and rescue and MDA, they entered the scene. As I said, from the scene, 2 injured women were evacuated, requiring resuscitation in a critical condition. And later, additional casualties were evacuated for examination, a clinical checkup. At this point, based on the tests and the findings provided to us by the fire department, there's no suspicion of hazardous materials in the apartment. At the scene, we detained the 3 caregivers for questioning, and the entire matter is under investigation.
Police and the state prosecutor's office are pushing for autopsies to determine the exact cause of death. Investigators believe the infants may have died from heat exhaustion and dehydration linked to a faulty heating system. The daycare, operating out of several adjacent apartments, had no valid license and was allegedly crammed far beyond capacity. But the decision to conduct autopsies has ignited fierce resistance. For Orthodox Jews, any tampering with a body after death is considered a grave desecration. The parents of the deceased infants opposed the procedure and appealed to the courts. Although the Jerusalem Magistrates Court ruled in favor of the state, the families and the ultra-Orthodox Zaka Emergency Service announced plans to take the case to Israel's Supreme Court. As night fell, protests spiraled into unrest. At the Shmuel Hanavi Junction in Jerusalem, demonstrators blocked roads, torched garbage bins, vandalized vehicles, and paralyzed public transport. Police declared the protests illegal and moved in to disperse the crowds, warning that the riots were endangering lives. Videos posted online showed police deploying water cannons, with one clip appearing to show a young protester knocked down and pushed dangerously close to a moving car. In Beit Shemesh, police used stun grenades and batons as trash bins burned along Nahar HaYarden Street. The unrest followed a directive from Rabbi Moshe Sternbuch, a senior leader of the anti-Zionist Ada Haredic community, who called on followers to take to the streets in protest against what he described as the desecration of the dead. Organizers have vowed to continue demonstrations. Earlier that morning, emergency services had rushed to the daycare after receiving an alert about an unresponsive infant. Medics soon found a second baby in critical condition. Both children were transported to hospital while undergoing CPR, but were pronounced dead on arrival. As rescuers searched the apartments, the scale of the tragedy became clear. Babies were found crying in closets, strollers, and cramped spaces, stacked one on top of another under blankets. police have detained 3 caregivers for questioning, while child welfare groups are demanding a full criminal investigation into the daycare's operations and licensing failures. What began as a medical inquiry has now become a flashpoint, pitting religious belief against public safety and grief against the state's demand for answers.